Westbrook. You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to Party on Broad. BOB can be found on iTunes and Spotify. Hit that subscribe button, guys, if you guys are watching us at the Painted Lines YouTube channel. Today, we are talking about Cole Anthony. We're talking about his strengths, his weaknesses, and the best fits in the NBA draft. Joining me today is my man, Austin. Follow him on Twitter at KrellTPL. What's going on, Austin?
Not much. Just another day, another prospect to scout, and, we got to get that Cole Anthony in, for sure.
Got to get that Cole Anthony in. Also,
whatever that
means. Also joining me today is my man, Thiago. Follow him on Twitter at TScabia. What's going on, man?
I'm doing good, Chris. I actually have bowling on TV right now because there's nothing else better. And let me ask you guys a question. Is there a sport that requires more attention to detail than somebody in the ninth flame going for a 300 score? I mean, you think about pressure and just like sheer,
Oh, I think I tie golf match on like the 18th hole. Got to make this putt, for the win. That to me would probably have my arms shaking. What about you, Austin?
What was that?
Jesus. All right, let's move the show on. Show must go on. All right, today we are talking about one of the biggest names in the 2020 NBA draft. I did this breakdown at thepainterlines.com. Before we get rolling, make sure you lock it down to the Blue Root TPL on Twitter for everything the NBA draft. We are less than a month away from the draft lottery. Cannot freaking wait. So let's talk about Cole Anthony. Does Cole Anthony have the skill set and capability to lead an NBA offense? Will he strictly be an offensive weapon off the bench at the next level? What are his strengths and weaknesses? Let's go. Any conversation about this guy begins with his father, Greg Anthony, one of the members of that iconic UNLV squad with Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon. He was an 11-year vet. Cole Anthony, because of that, grew up around the game of basketball at a very young age. And during his early years, man, this guy just got the best training possible. Steve Harris, a prominent AAU figure who also mentored Kemba Walker. So basketball runs in this guy's veins, Cole Anthony's veins. This guy was an immediate sensation in high school. He played his first 3 years at Archbishop Motley High School in New York before transferring to Oak Hill Academy during his senior year. And this guy's name was everywhere. I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember just seeing this guy all over ESPN. He was part of the McDonald's All-American game. He received invites to Nike Hoop Summit, the Jordan Brand Classic. And according to Rivals, Cole Anthony was the #1 point guard recruit in the country. He committed to University of North Carolina. Roy Williams stated at the time that he's one of the most complete point guards he ever recruited, which is super high praise from an all-time head coach. Expectations were incredibly high for this guy, Cole Anthony, and he delivered, man. This is one of the best moments of college basketball last year was during his college debut. He put up 34 points, 5 assists in a victory over Notre Dame. Just an epic moment for this guy. And all signs pointed to a Cinderella year for North Carolina. It didn't necessarily happen. Unfortunately for Cole Anthony, the injury bug showed its ugly face, and a partially torn meniscus in his right knee sidelined this guy for nearly 2 months. And Cole Anthony and the Tar Heels just fought adversity all season long. It was a season of ups and downs. They finished 14-19, and it was the first losing record under legendary head coach Roy Williams. And, we keep asking ourselves the question, should Cole Anthony be singled out or blamed for this disappointing season? And, when you look deeper at the UNC roster, they just swarmed him on defense. It was one of the weakest talent-wise rosters for UNC in a long time. Everyone just kind of froze all around the perimeter and just watched, almost like Allen Iverson in 2001, just give him the ball and see what happens. When you look deeper, according to the Stepien, Cole Anthony had a +7 net rating, the only player on the UNC roster with a positive net rating. Let's talk about Cole Anthony's strengths. Is Anthony's inconsistent season a cause for concern, or will scouts be wowed by a guard with one of the biggest upsides in the NBA draft? Lead us off, Austin. What are some of Cole Anthony's strengths?
Well, Dan, you want to rate his
autobiography? What else is there to talk about, Chris?
That's a podcast. I don't know why we had to be here for that.
On our next show.
So I really like Cole Anthony's ability to sort of create off the dribble. I thought he did a lot of good things as a shot creator for himself this past season on a team that quite frankly was putrid. And I think his offense, like in ISO, he was in the 61st percentile in like the PNR pick and roll scoring, 33rd percentile off the dribble jump shots, 85th percentile. So I mean, he's a really, 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 really capable scorer and very talented. Has a bunch of different counters to what the defenses can throw at him. And then, by the way, that was all coming with the defenses knowing and keying on him, actively trying to perturb him. Nonetheless, he shot, his true shooting was 48.2%, which isn't great. It's pretty bad, actually. He shot 36.8% from the field, 35.5% from the 3-point line. Not great. Also had a high volume, though. He averaged 6 rebounds a game for a UNC team that had size, but which wasn't very good. So I think there's a lot of potential there. I just think he desperately was basically choked and drowned trying to, for defenses trying to like stop him, because they knew if they stop him, you win the game pretty easily. So without having any pieces to help, he was basically doing the entire project by himself. And as a result, everybody got C's instead.
Yep.
That's what it boils down to.
Yep. What about you, Thiago?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to make that point one more time because I think it needs to be said over and over again. I don't think we can underestimate how bad that North Carolina team was. I think you guys touched on every single point with respect to that. And one of the things that really stood out for me was just his sheer composure on the basketball court. So to Austin's point, he was constantly getting double team, keyed up, and making sure that he was not going to beat the opposition. And he was a guy who maintained a lot of poise. He's a guy who's able to finish on contact. He always seems to be in balance, whether you're taking a guy off the dribble or shooting. So for me, what really stood out was his poise on the ball. And it plays out in all the numbers that Austin mentioned as primarily as a spot-up shooter. I will say this, that when I was watching his game, one of the things that also stood out was when he had space and this many in transition. I mean, he shot out of a cannon. And for a guy who I would not say he's physically gifted. I mean, he's got a little bit of like a wiggle and burst to him, but I would not say he's like at the top of athletic traits that you expect from a point guard. But he really stood out from that standpoint. I think that shows that if you give him space, if you space the court out a little bit more, you have a guy there who can do a lot for you. So just to piggyback on what you guys are talking about, but it all boils down to how awful that North Carolina team really was.
And we cannot state this enough. A TPL group-wide message, if anything, would be UNC was abhorrent.
Abhorrent.
With a watermark for TPL.
You guys absolutely nailed it. I don't really have anything else to add other than this is clearly an offensive weapon. He has a good handle. He's a pretty good shooter. And let's talk about weaknesses. My first weakness for this guy is what position is he? While Cole Anthony can make an easy pass, this is not a floor general. This guy is clearly an undersized combo guard with a small wingspan, 6'4", poor efficiency numbers. You touched on that, Austin. So if he doesn't develop his point guard skills moving forward, what is he? In a switch-heavy league where, this could be a real problem for Cole Anthony's ceiling as a prospect. Anthony's 3.5 assist to turnover ratio his freshman season is a major cause for concern. While he shows tons of flashes offensively, he also takes his teammates out of the game by over-dribbling, playing too much hero ball. So it's going to be interesting, not just what position he plays, but what his role is at the next level. What about you, Thiago? What's a weakness for Mr. Cole Anthony?
So I think all the stuff you talked about in terms of, the team structure not being ideal around him, I think it shows up primarily in his shot selection. I think you talk about a guy who wanted to show that he really belonged and his draft status justify, the recruitment. And I think he really showed in his ability just to get into traffic areas and not pass the ball to the open guys and really settle for a lot of contested looks. So I think that for Cole Anthony, he really needs to focus on, first of all, getting his teammates involved a little bit more and really focusing on just a better shot selection at the next level, because the stuff of where he sees in college is just not going to translate in the NBA. I mean, guys are going to stuff the ball right back in his face, and it's just not going to be a pretty sight. So I think those are the things that he needs to focus on for sure.
Right. I don't see this guy getting separation with the ball in his hands. He struggled with that in college. I don't even know what that's going to look like in the NBA. What about you, Austin? What's a weakness?
I think his pick and roll defense is pretty bad. I think in the NBA, that's something that is pick and roll heavy league. They will crush you every time down the court if they think that you are a weak pick and roll defender. His footwork in the pick and roll defense is not great. I think it's crossed up at times. And I think he also is a bit lazy. He prefers to go under the screen instead of actually trying to fight over it. So, I kind of question whether he can hang on a pick and roll defensive scheme. But then again, if he's a sixer, it won't matter because they don't really cover the pick and roll. So, maybe it's a good fit. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, if he's a liability in the pick and roll on defense, he'll get played off the court. I mean, guys like Kemba, Steph, Kyrie, guys like Russell Westbrook would literally eat him, just shred his body into pieces and eat his bones, and it would be a sad scene for everybody. So, I think that needs a lot of work.
All right, let's talk about best fit for Cole Anthony. This guy's one of the most divisive prospects in this draft. I've seen this guy's stock, in the top 5 to the end of the lottery. In the end, I do think NBA teams are going to, eventually be sold on this guy's immense talent. I see Cole Anthony in that back end of the lottery, nowhere near being a top 5 pick, in my opinion. So the perfect fit I have for Cole Anthony is the Knicks. The Knicks need a lead guard that can score. Cole Anthony's hometown is New York. He's from New York. R.J. Barrett, Kevin Knox, they're limited offensively. Anthony is no stranger to the spotlight. So Madison Square Garden would do nothing. For Cole Anthony, he would be just fine fitting in there. So he just looks destined for New York. What about you, Thiago?
Let me ask you this, Chris, before Thiago goes. Do you think, seeing that he had a true shooting of 48%, do you think it's a wise choice considering the Knicks physically can't put the ball in the basket?
It's a great question, but I just see the Knicks. They don't draft well, and I'm not high on this guy to begin with. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but I feel like the stardom factor of Cole Anthony is why they're they're New York Knicks. They love Cole Anthony, so they're just gonna fall in love with the name, not the game.
So basically, you're just he's gonna be a bust, and the Knicks like busts. So let's put him on the Knicks.
I mean, R.J. Barrett is it to go in your?
I mean,
Kevin Knox.
Kevin Knox, yeah.
Where were we at? Thiago?
I'm looking at Phoenix Suns and Duke Constance. Sorry, man. You called my name first. Phoenix Suns, yeah. So the second to last in the NBA pull-up threes behind our beloved 76ers. So right off the bat, talking about a guy who come in and just give you some pull-up shooting from deep. And I also like the infrastructure that Phoenix has and can surround them with. So they have a couple floor spacers and, Devin Booker and Cam Johnson. They have, Michael Bridges, who's a very good wing defender. Maybe DeAndre Ayton can turn into kind of the above average rim protector as well. And they also have Ricky Rubio. So you have a guy there who can sit behind and watch and really learn how to play the point guard position at the next level. For me, Phoenix makes perfect sense, but the Suns rarely make draft picks that make any sense. So who knows?
All right. Finish us off here, Austin.
For me, it's a pretty easy one. This was my pick all along. for me, the Orlando Magic make a lot of sense. They desperately do need a point guard. There's forgot how to shoot. But they do have a number of athletic wings. They have bigs that can run pick and roll. They have shooters on the perimeter. I think Cole Anthony could be a really, really, really interesting piece down in Orlando. The Sunshine State.
Well, let me answer this question. Let me ask you one more question before we leave. If he's hanging around at 18 or 19 and you're the 76ers, do you
don't say that, man.
Do you make that jump 3 or 4 spots, which wouldn't cost you a lot? But
I think I would.
You would?
But the question is this: how do you know a team in that spot doesn't love him, and they don't like a team might fall in love with him and want him too, and they might price him outside of what it's worth for the Sixers. So I mean, just because he's there at 18, 19 doesn't mean that it's like a cakewalk. Oh, this isn't going to be that much to get him, which is going to do it. They might be like, well, I want Matisse Thybulle and 2 firsts in the future.
Do you trade Matisse for Cole Anthony?
Not a fan.
Really? Interesting.
I'll always overvalue defense. I'll always value a true defensive star over an unknown in Cole Anthony. Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, in Philly, we don't value defensive stars. We value vlogs.
Twitter mentions.
All right. Let's wrap this up. Make sure you check out thepaintlines.com for my breakdown on Cole Anthony and the strengths and weaknesses, everything here. Check out the Feed to Embiid podcast. That is Austin's other podcast on Twitter at the Feed to Embiid, covers the Sixers and the NBA. And make sure you give my man Thiago a follow on Twitter at tscabia. For Thiago, for Austin, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
Sixers win it! Wow! Oh, man, Embiid just posted right. Russell Westbrook. You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get it.